Hello and welcome to the pilot program for another post-series here I'm thinking about for the channel. Is it pay to win? We're going to be discussing some of the many mobile and live service games I've had a chance to play while writing my next book, and we're going to try and render a verdict as to whether or not they could be considered pay to win, free to play, player-friendly design, that kind of thing. Let me know what you think in the comments down below in terms of if you like the structure for this. But for our first episode, we're going to be talking about a game that I've played quite a bit, and that is the tower defense gacha game, Arknights. Because I don't have a mobile emulator, we're going to be dealing with just photos and stills, and maybe a few of the videos I've taken from my phone of these games. The structure of the video is going to be, for the first half, we're going to be discussing the general gameplay, monetization, gacha, that kind of thing. And then the second half, we're going to try and render a verdict for the game. So, Arknights on its mobile or the Google app or Google Play Store page has a lot of descriptors for what it is, but for our intents and purposes, this is a tower defense game. If you've played anything from the likes of Defense Grid, to the old Warcraft 3 mods, to many other free and paid games on PC and mobile, you should know what a tower defense game is. Place characters or towers down, stop bad guys from getting to the end, rinse and repeat. So with Arknights itself, the characters themselves are the towers, and some PC games have done this in the past. In this game, characters are categorized by rarity, 1 to 6 stars, as well as their class. So classes give you a basic idea of what the role of that character is. Vanguards are your opening characters. They can also provide you with more deployment points, or DP, which lets you fund and put out other characters. Supporters support, casters use magic or arts, and the list goes on. 1 to 6 stars means 1 star are your very basic units, 6 stars are your super elite, the ones you're going to be probably spending currency and maybe real money to get at some point. Now, as for the general structure of the gameplay, the game itself is more or less focused on kind of, pseudo-puzzle towers, as in you are given a fixed tower or given fixed lanes, fixed placements, fixed enemy waves. Your mission, of course, stop the enemies from reaching your kind of home-based tiles, denoted by blue. They come from the red spaces. So the challenge of the game, of course, is how do you set this up? You have your different characters, and again, one of the things about having the different roles compared to, say, a more traditional tower defense game, something like Gemcraft, where every tower is kind of kept very basic, is that you are given a lot of flexibility in terms of what you set up on the maps. There are essentially 2 different kinds of tiles. You have low ground and high ground. Low ground is going to be for all the melee or quote-unquote melee. Again, we'll talk more about how characters and classes break down later on. High ground is for your range. And to be fair to the game from a tower defense standpoint, the gameplay is quite good. This is a title where tactics and understanding where to place characters is oftentimes more important than raw power, especially if you're trying to do more of the advanced stuff in this game. When I play a game like Gemcraft, it is more about that chase of power. Leveling up your towers, getting more gems, going from, again, doing hundreds of points, of thousands of points, to millions of points of damage. Arknights is a bit more straightforward than that. Characters' attack values will rarely get above 1,000, not counting buffing and the 6-star characters. The game's general balance is built on the differences between attack, defense, and resistance or res in terms of their character attributes. When you have defense, a character's attack will go against another character's defense. If the attack is higher, it will go through. If it's not, the attack will be kind of blocked, in some cases just completely down to maybe like 1 to 2 points of damage. Arts or magic will go completely through defense, but a resistance or the res stat will eat away at percentage of that attack. So if someone has 10 res, that means they will reduce all arts damage by 10%. Now this is kind of the dynamic of how balance comes into play, as characters who do rapid fire but little points of damage, or few, are far better at fighting weaker or more numerous enemies, but they will generally not be able to deal with these super heavy characters without assistance, buffs, and debuffs. While characters who do very high amount of damage but are oftentimes slower can eat through the defenses, but they're going to struggle when there's so many enemies that they don't have the time to attack. Now, when it comes to character designs, this is where the interesting balance and of course the gacha system comes into play. As I said earlier, you have 1 to 6 stars. As you go up in star rarity, characters of course will be able to do more. And a very big point about the design and balance of the characters in this game is that as you get into the higher ranks, 5 to 6 stars, characters will generally offer more utility. A fully leveled 3-star defender can still defend just as well as a 6-star defender. But that 6-star defender will always come with more utility, more options, more value to your team compared to the more utilitarian designs of 4 and below. Every character has skills, and the skills themselves generally represent their additional abilities that they can bring. The first skill for a character is your usual very basic one. Plus attack, plus heal, maybe plus attack speed. The second skill is oftentimes more unique to that character, and the third skill that is reserved for 6 stars are the oh my god super crazy powers that can oftentimes mean the difference between victory or defeat or give you a huge leg up. Now of course, how you're going to do all this is going to be based on grinding. And this is definitely where the more mobile and gacha design comes into play with Arknights. There are 3 kind of rankings for a character: normal, elite 1, and elite 2. For, I believe it's 3 and below, they can only go up to basically the end of their standard rating. Although I believe 3 stars, yes, they can be promoted to at least elite 1. Characters at 4 and above can get promoted to elite 1. 5 and above can get to elite 2. And, 4 can get to elite 2 as well. Now, the amount of resources and the cost to go up gets progressively more expensive, and it is harder to upgrade 5 and 6 stars compared to 4 and below. Now, a big point about this is that as you level up their promotions, it gives you more room to level their actual character level. And the highest a character can be leveled is based on both their elite rating as well as their stars. Now this is where it gets a little bit interesting. Leveling up characters outside of hitting thresholds for upgrading skills or promotions is not a huge bump when you do it small. Going from level 1 to 2, 51 to 52, 79 to 80, that's not that big. You may get maybe 1 to 2 points added to their stats. Going from 1 to 60, 20 to 80, that's a major bump. Now, to get those resources, you're on to grind the maps. And a lot of the progression of Arknights is tailored to the game's story campaign, which at this moment in time, as I'm recording this video, is right now at Chapter 9. So if you want to continue to upgrade characters, you must complete the main story. There are daily missions that will award you with kind of more generalized resources, more in-game money. You have to get specialists or promoting chips that you will then have to use to upgrade characters. And of course, this is the way of you just kind of burning through your energy, or in this game's case, the sanity. The game also features a home base, which is a standard for a lot of gacha games these days, where you can do off-game grinding, you can get free resources, that kind of thing, and also goes into the daily and weekly missions. Now, in terms of the actual missions of Arknights, the game is kind of separated into different groups. As I said, you have your main story, which again is set to chapter 9, or 1 through 9, or I'm sorry, 0 through 9, 0 is the tutorial. You have the dailies, as I mentioned, and then you have some more of the special and unique stuff that Arknights does. You have what's called the Armageddon missions, or Armageddon maps. These are maps where it takes a good 30 to 40 minutes of play, and they will reward you with the game's gacha currency. I'll come back to that in a few minutes. You have, at the moment, what's called contingency contracts. These are kind of daily, kind of like mini games or special maps, where you decide how hard you make the map by choosing different contracts or difficulty modifiers. The more modifiers you take and you win, the more rewards you get. The game will frequently have side story events. These are kind of story vignettes that tell a different story compared to the main one. They'll have their own challenges, their own unique rules, and of course rewards. More are added, I believe it's like every month or two to the game, maybe even more than that depending upon what's being developed, and these side stories get archived, so you can play and experience them at your own leisure, but you won't get all the major rewards if you're playing it at the time of their active event. They recently added in a kind of roguelite mode, where you can take your characters into randomly generated maps, you get randomly chosen operators, and it's kind of a very fun twist on the game. And that's one of the things I think Arknights does really well. They have a lot of different ways of playing this game. It could have been very easy for them just to keep adding and scaling maps on the same basic level. But with the different stories, different characters, and things along those lines, you definitely do get your value if you enjoy this game. Speaking of value, let's talk about the gacha. Because of course this is a major point of this game, it's also where a lot of the money will come in when you play it. The two major things that you're going to be spending money on in Arknights is going to be costumes and more characters, or I'm sorry, I should say pools for characters. Now, the game features two distinct currencies. You have Arundum, I'm pretty sure I'm butchering that, which is the general gacha currency, and Arknights Prime, which is the game's premium currency. You can get the premium currency by 3-starring a map for the first time, and of course whenever you spend money or buy certain things from the store, they'll give you some Arknights along with that, or will be a currency transfer. Now, that is actually one of the good things about Arknights, is that through play, you can get enough currency to afford some of the costumes for your favorite characters. Because there are, of course, a limited number of maps, most likely you're not going to be able to get everyone. But, again, if you're playing this as a free player, you're probably not concerning yourself that much with it. Now, you can also get the gacha currency through play, and we'll come back to that in the next section. If you want to roll in Arknights, there are two options to get characters. You have the headhunting permits, and you have recruitment. So recruitment is kind of a free way to get characters. You can only get between 1 and 5-star characters normally, and you choose from different tags, which kind of try to tailor what you're rolling for. So if I choose a medic tag and it goes through, then I'm going to get a medic. Sniper, sniper, AoE, AoE, you get the picture. But sometimes you can get a top operator tag, which will guarantee a 6-star if that character goes through. And this is something that we really don't see from a lot of gacha games, giving you a chance, very, very, very rare chance nonetheless, but a chance to get a free 6-star. Headhunting, of course, is where it gets very expensive. This is where you're going to be spending your gacha currencies. The game will typically have, when you're playing it, at least two banners going at a single time. You have a standard banner, which is usually updated, I believe it's every 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and then you have a specialty banner. This is usually linked to if there's a major event going on, a limited time banner, that kind of thing. Now, to pull in Arknights, it will cost you 600 Arundum. I know I'm going to keep butchering that throughout this video, to make one pull, or 6,000 for a 10 pull. Now, in terms of the currency exchange, I believe it is at this time $3.30, of course USD, because I'm here in America, to do one pull. So if we do the quick calculation here, that means that to do a 10 pull normally, it's going to cost you $33. If you think that's expensive, hold on to your hats, because we're not done yet. How the game calculates any kind of pity is like this. To normally pull a 6-star in Arknights, you have a 2% chance. Now, depending upon which games you play, 2% is either very high or very, very low. On your 50th pull, if you do not pull a 6-star, for your 51st and up, you will get an additional 2% chance. So on pull 51, you now have a 4% chance. On pull 52, you have a 6% chance. So what that means, of course, is that if you've somehow completely ruined your luck and you have gone 99 pulls without getting one 6-star, your 100th pull is going to be a guarantee. Now, another thing that the game does that is very interesting is that for the regular banners, your pulls or your pity will carry over to the next one until you get that 6-star. So if you're pulling on the standard and the special banners, if you're not getting 6 stars, that will eventually be pulled to whatever banner that you will hopefully get that 6-star on. Now, if we do the calculation here, $3.30 times 100 is $330 for what would be considered a standard price for a 6-star. Now, the game will have sales and special things you can buy to get a guaranteed 6-star, but we're not going to be factoring that in. We're talking about just standard play. Now, to make things even better, the game will feature limited time banners. These are where a character will only show up on that banner, and if you don't pull them there, then you're not going to be able to pull them until their special banner shows up again. Right now they're running an event which I managed to get the character, I believe, 32 pulls. But there is a pity in these banners set at 300. So that means for a limited time operator at $3.30 a pull, it is $990 to basically buy a 6-star. Yeah, that is kind of expensive. So if we left it at that, it would be very easy to say that Arknights is pay to win and definitely not a good game for free players. But what makes this very tricky is that the game, as I said, does allow you to get free Arundum. So here's how it works. And I have my calculator up, so I'll be adding this as we go along because math is hard. Every day when you play, you will get 100 Arundum simply by completing the daily missions. So that is 700 that you'll get a week. So that means that each week you'll be able to make at least one pull completely free. Now, every week there is a weekly mission to get 500. So that means that every week for a free player you will be able to get 1200 Arundum just by playing the game. So that's 2 pulls. Now, here's where it gets a little bit more interesting. The Armageddon maps that I talked about earlier, if you can complete 3 maps 100%, you raise the amount of Arundum that they'll give you. So when you do this all the way, you'll be able to get 1800 Arundum for free. So if we do the math there, 1200 plus 1800 equals 3000 you'll get a week, which will translate to 12,000 you will get a month for free. So just by playing this game, you'll be able to make at least 20 pulls a month for free. Now, I'm not counting sometimes you'll get headhunting permits, or you'll get the headhunting certificates, which will allow you to make free rolls. Now, whenever you pull in Arknights, characters that you already have copies for are milled into certificates. These certificates at 4 and above, if you fully max out a character, can eventually let you get the headhunting permits for free. So this is another way that you can get free character pools simply by playing the game. Now, the reason why you get duplicates of characters is that this game does feature that system where duplicates of a character will give you potential, which will enhance certain attributes of that character. If you're a free player, in all honesty, you should not be worrying about this, because it will cost a lot of money or a lot of luck, or both, if you intend on trying to get a character to full potential or 6 potential. Now, one purchase that you can make in Arknights is they have kind of a monthly subscription at $5, which will get you, over the course of the month, enough currency to get another free 10 pull, as well as some of more of the Originite Prime. So this is what I've been buying for the last few months. I think I've spent $30 total in the game over 6 months of playing it. And that can be a pretty good soft purchase for the game. I'm not spending $99 in this before anything. So, with all that said, we've talked about the mechanics, we've talked about the design, we've talked about the monetization. It's time to answer the question, is this game free to play or pay to win? And it's definitely a tough thing given the gameplay and the design of it. So, we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to try and render the verdict. If you're interested in my thoughts on design, then check out my game design books. For entry-level students, we have 20 Essential Games to Study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres, with free-to-play coming in 2022. Alright, it is time. Can we render a verdict when it comes to Arknights? And when I was thinking about doing this game and making this video, my answer is an old Simpsons quote. The short answer is no with a maybe, the long answer is yes with a but. When it comes to Arknights, what makes this very tricky is, one, they give you a lot of free resources. There's a lot of ways for free players to make progress. As I said earlier, it is entirely possible as a free player to punch very high up against a continent in this game. There are people who have beaten every story mission, they participate in every event using the free 3, 4, and 5-star characters, and a very rare free 6-star character. It is entirely possible using tactics and those characters to play this game. Now, of course, for most consumers, are you really going to want to play using the basic characters? That's, of course, very debatable. In the previous section, when I talked about the character designs of Arknights, one of the things that the developers have done really well is to incentivize getting 5 and 6-star characters, thanks to their utility. And it almost leaves me with the complaint that the character design is so good, it makes the gacha all the more stinging to roll for it. So yes, one of the complaints we can throw is that gameplay too good. Now that is of course a very, high quality game journalism complaint for a game, right? With the 5 and 6 stars, as I said, their major role compared to the lower star versions is to provide unique utility. Here's an example. You have a character known as Mudrock. She is the tankiest tank who can ever tank in the history of tanks. She gets a self-regenerating indestructible shield, which not only blocks the next source of damage, but it also heals her every time the shield gets broken. So if she's up against enemies who attack very slowly, such as bosses, it is theoretically possible that she cannot be killed. She is one of the few characters in the game who can stand toe-to-toe against the many boss-class enemies. Sounds like a really great character. Sounds like someone you want for your team. Of course, here's the question. What's the chance of you actually getting that character? Again, you can pull in banners, but the banners are not guaranteed. You can, of course, spend money. When the game, usually for its half-year and yearly anniversaries, will let you buy a special certificate, which will let you get a 6-star of your choosing for usually $30. Sometimes I think it could even be $35. Okay, that sounds pretty good, especially when you compare it to the, what I say, like $990 normal pity for this game. But as we are saying, it is a game that locks its best toys behind the gacha. So even with all the free currencies that you can get, all the free resources that come with events and so on, it still doesn't guarantee any of these characters. I have watched streamers who have spent hundreds and maybe even thousands of dollars trying to pull certain characters that they want. And again, for a game like Arknights, with the very great character designs and abilities, it can go a long way. Now, as I said a few minutes ago, you can play a lot of this game using free characters. But if you want to go further, if we're talking about doing all the Armageddon maps, contingency contracts to, I think, 18 or even higher, and of course some of the more advanced modes and features that are added, those 5 and 6-star characters really do matter. And as I said, they can mean the difference between victory or defeat, especially when you run into boss class enemies, who can oftentimes one-shot most of the normal operators. Now, again, the game is not, I think, balanced around you getting or having all 6-star characters. Again, a lot of this game being a tower defense style gameplay means that if you have proper tactics, you know what the map rules are, you know what to deal with, you can do a lot with lower quality characters. But there are certainly some difficulty spikes throughout the game's main story. I believe one was, I think it was 5.6 or 5.5, where they throw in a slowdown effect, lots of aerial units, that kind of thing. And it was also one of the major ones that gates you in terms of the resource that it drops that you need for a lot of the elite promotions. Now, to be fair with Arknights in terms of its general play, it is the only mobile game I've played so far where the daily loop, or the amount of time you must spend daily to play it, actually decreased the more that I played it. Because of having a fully stocked workshop, fully stocked base, and being able to auto the maps I've already cleared, I can complete all my daily missions within maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And anything that I would say is below 30 or even preferably below 20 is really good for a mobile game. This is not a game that demands a lot of your time once you're starting to make progress. And it makes it, again, all the more worse when you don't get that fantastic 6-star. Again, the complete gameplay too good can be applied. And to the developer's credit, a lot of the fan base for this game is very supportive, even of the gachas. And I think a lot of it goes with the amount of content and quality to it. With a lot of the other kind of second-generation mobile games I've played, even some of the third ones, stories and special events are oftentimes, they feel a little throwaway. You know, just some basic dialogue, maybe they'll just put like a hat on a character and that does it. This game will feature original music, new character assets, new rules for their events. And again, a lot of this goes a long way towards providing value. They recently, at the time of me recording this, just announced, I believe, their 3.5-year anniversary event, which features adding in yet another gameplay mode that's coming, more unique characters, skins, and that kind of thing. If I had any complaints, is that I would still like to be able to maybe just auto some of the maps, because you still have to watch the play go through at times 2 speed, even if you've already cleared the map. And again, this is more of a late game complaint rather than a normal to mid-game issue. But to bring this back to the question, is Arknights pay to win? There is no multiplayer or PvP mode. They did do like some kind of cooperative mode. This was before I actually started playing it, so I don't know how that went through. But this is not a game where you are competing with other players. It's all about you versus the AI. In terms of the map designs, you can definitely see how things scale in terms of higher difficulty. You'll go from enemies who can just easily be crushed, where you can just place down 1 or 2 operators, to some of the extreme maps where if you don't have a game plan and the right operators in play, you're in deep trouble. And this again gets back at the balance of this game. The maps are specifically designed around very unique situations or counters that you must have. If you have a lot of rapid fire but low damaging characters, a map that throws a lot of heavily armored characters is going to wreck your team. You need to have an answer for that. Conversely, if you go into a map where all of a sudden you fight 10, 20 enemies in waves at a time, heavy characters aren't going to be that useful. So you will eventually need to have a pretty healthy stock and roster of characters to mix and match. There are a few characters like Silver Ash and Thorns which are like almost always good to bring in, but you are going to need to have specific answers to some of these threats. Now, as a free player, it can be a lot harder for you to get those, especially against some of the better 6-star characters. A popular meme is the character Surtur, who is just basically super high damage. She also becomes immortal when she's about to die for like, I think an additional like 10 to 20 seconds or something like that. And it's kind of like the catch-all, just throw her at the enemy and they'll die, hopefully. So, to wrap things up, when I talk about free-to-play and pay-to-win in my upcoming book, I put it on a scale or a spectrum. One side being 100% free-to-play, one side being 100% pay-to-win. It's not a matter of on or off, black or white, that kind of thing. Arknights, from a lot of the gacha and mobile-style games I've played, I would definitely put it more on the fair side or free-to-play side. I don't know I would classify this as player-friendly design, although I think it's really close in that respect. Again, the fact that there is actual gameplay to Arknights beyond just throw higher numbers or throw higher rarity characters at the problem to win definitely gives it an advantage, especially compared to some of the other games. And believe me, if people enjoy the series, I can talk about some games that are very, very pay to win with their monetizations. For developers watching this, in terms of some of the lessons to take away, 1, always have free options available. The free player should not be treated as a second or third class citizen in your game. They should be able to enjoy the gameplay loop. And they should also be able to do stuff like gacha pools without having to spend tons and tons of money. Now, Arknights is very weird in this respect. And again, this is why I can't put it fully on the player-friendly design spectrum, is that it still has very expensive characters. Again, some of the numbers I threw out, $990, $330, and so on, to make certain pools. Even if the game is fair, it's still a little iffy to have purchases of that kind in the game. How much should a 6-star character cost? And again, that's a question that we can debate game by game, genre by genre. As I've said, with Arknights characters, they are very well done from a tower defense standpoint. Is that $900? Well done. I'll throw that to you in the comments. Let me know what you think about that question. Now, with that said, Arknights is definitely not one of the top gacha games. Stuff like Genshin Impact would definitely fall along those lines. And having the gameplay that it does of Arknights is both a positive and negative in this respect. If you like tower defense games, I would definitely rank Arknights with its gacha, with its monetization, as still one of the better examples of the genre out there. If you don't like tower defense gameplay, Arknights is not going to change your mind. And it's not going to probably get $990 from you. But I think with that, let's wrap up this episode. So, with Arknights, definitely one of the better examples. It also, again, for developers watching, it really shows the amount of care and quality can go a long way, not only towards making your game better, but also making your fans more likely to support you. We've seen this with other free-to-play games, like Path of Exile and Warframe, to name a few. And again, if you're trying to make a live service game, it's not something you can only go half in on. You really need to dedicate yourself, and it's why games like Arknights, like Path of Exile and Warframe, have years of support and probably years more to come. So, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this episode, and if you want to see me cover other live service and mobile games as well for this series. Do all the liking, subscribing, and commenting. Again, if you want to know more about my thoughts on monetization, free-to-play, and live service games, be sure to check out my next book, Game Design Deep Dive Free-to-Play, which will be out probably by the time you're watching this video. Do all the liking, subscribing, and commenting, and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.